In the shipyards of Hamburg, Germany was building something the world had never truly seen before. A battleship larger, heavier, and more powerful than any that had ever put to sea. On a cold February morning in 1939, thousands gathered along the harbor to watch her launch. Hitler himself declared that this ship would crush Britain's fleet and rule the Atlantic. August 1940. The ship finally entered active service. Nearly 2,000 men climbed aboard for the first time, men who would soon call her steel decks their only home. Alongside her sister ship, she stood as proof of years of ambition rebuilt after defeat. To the German people watching newsreels in darkened theaters, she seemed utterly invincible. In a private meeting with his top commanders, Hitler spoke about this ship with total certainty. No one in that room could have imagined how her story would actually end. May 18th, 1941. Under strict secrecy, the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen slipped quietly out of port first, bound for the vast, unpredictable waters of the open Atlantic Ocean. That night, Fleet Commander Günther Lütjens addressed his crew over the loudspeakers. "The day we have longed for has finally arrived," he told them. Hours later, Bismarck herself set sail. Under the command of her captain, Ernst Lindemann, the great ship moved silently through the Baltic under cover of darkness, her true destination known to only a handful aboard. British intelligence had already caught wind of unusual German naval activity. Somewhere out in the fog and cold of the North Sea, two of history's greatest navies were converging. By May 22nd, a hunter-killer group of 14 Royal Navy ships, including the legendary HMS Hood, left port in pursuit. The chase had begun before a single shot was fired. May 24th, before dawn broke, in the freezing waters of the Denmark Strait, British lookouts finally spotted smoke rising on the distant horizon. The Bismarck had at last been found. Aboard HMS Hood, the pride of the entire Royal Navy, Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland gave the order to close the distance quickly and engage the enemy without hesitation. On Bismarck's bridge, Lindemann and Lütjens quietly disagreed on strategy, one eager to strike immediately, the other far more cautious of the risk. The tension was as sharp as the cold air. At exactly 5:52 in the morning, the two fleets finally closed within firing range of one another. Thousands of men on both sides silently braced for what was coming next. The first shells screamed across the water. For a few unbearably tense minutes, no one aboard either ship truly knew whose aim would find its mark first. At 6 a.m. sharp, Bismarck's fifth salvo finally found its mark. A single shell pierced straight through the Hood's heavily armored ammunition magazine deep below deck. In a single catastrophic instant, the ship that had ruled the seas for over 2 decades was violently torn apart by an enormous explosion that lit up the morning sky. Of the 1,418 men aboard HMS Hood that morning, only 3 would survive. The Royal Navy had just lost its greatest symbol of power in under 10 brutal minutes. The Prince of Wales, badly damaged and now alone, turned sharply away under cover of smoke. Lindemann wanted desperately to pursue her and finish the job completely. But Lütjens firmly refused. Their mission was commerce raiding, not open naval battle. It was a decision that would quietly haunt the German fleet in the difficult days to come. News of the Hood's sudden loss shook Britain to its very core. Winston Churchill gave the Royal Navy a single direct order that morning: sink the Bismarck, whatever it takes. Every available ship in the entire Royal Navy was called into the hunt, battleships, cruisers, and destroyers converging from across the Atlantic toward one single target. Aboard Bismarck, the damage was far worse than anyone had first realized. A hit had ruptured her fuel tanks, leaving a long, visible trail of oil across the open sea. On May 25th, Bismarck managed to slip away from her pursuers entirely, vanishing into the vast empty ocean. For a brief moment, it truly seemed she might escape. But the silence didn't last long. British code breakers and reconnaissance aircraft picked up her trail again, and the hunt resumed with a fresh and desperate sense of urgency. May 26th. A lone patrol aircraft finally spotted Bismarck again, alone and dangerously exposed, still hundreds of miles from the safety of occupied France and friendly air cover. With no battleships close enough to intercept her in time, the Royal Navy turned to an unlikely and almost desperate weapon: a squadron of aging, obsolete biplanes. M16 Ferry Swordfish, slow and impossibly outdated, took off from the carrier Ark Royal directly into brutal wind, driving rain, and near impossible flying conditions over open water. Flying dangerously low through heavy anti-aircraft fire, the young pilots released their torpedoes one by one into the churning, freezing sea far below their fragile aircraft. One single torpedo struck true, jamming Bismarck's rudder permanently at an angle. The mightiest battleship in the world could no longer steer away from her closing enemies. May 27th, at first light. Unable to maneuver or turn, Bismarck could do nothing but wait as the Royal Navy closed in on her from every single direction. The battleships King George V and Rodney opened fire at dawn, quickly joined by cruisers and destroyers completely surrounding the crippled, wounded giant in the open water. For nearly 2 full hours, hundreds of shells tore relentlessly into her thick armor plating. Her guns fell silent one by one, but still, remarkably, she refused to sink. Survivors later said that Captain Lindemann stood alone at the bow, calmly saluting his ship as she slowly began to roll over beneath him into the cold water. At 10:40 in the morning, Bismarck finally disappeared beneath the waves for good. Of nearly 2,200 men aboard that day, only around 110 survived. The pride of the Kriegsmarine was gone.